Hello everyone. We're going to start today by talking about percents, but you should have looked at this practice book page yesterday after you took your math quiz. And so I want to just take a look at the example that you did just so we can be thinking about what we already know before jumping into something new. So in this example, you were asked how you could write the fraction 1/100th as an equivalent decimal. Well, we know that we write 1/100 as a decimal as 0.01 because that's what we've been working on for so long. So it shows that in the model, 1 out of 100 of those parts is shaded. So that's the fraction that that model represents. And you can write that in words as 1/100th and as a decimal as 0.01 with a 1 in the hundredths place. So jumping over to something new today, which really may not be very new to all of you, is we're going to be thinking about percent. Okay, so what is a percent? For you, you think of percent as maybe a grade. So if you get a math quiz back and you have an 89% on there, right away you're thinking to yourself, okay, I did pretty well. I didn't get all of them right, but I did pretty well. How do you know you didn't get all of them right? Because you do know. Because you already know, and you've known for a long time, even if you didn't know where it came from, that 100% means you got the entire thing correct. 100% of something is the whole thing. So if we think about a time test, there are 100 problems on a time test. If you get 97 out of 100 correct, you have a 97%. Okay, so let's take a look at that. The word percent means parts per 100. So the parts per every 100. So for each 100, this is how many. A percent describes an amount by showing it as part of 100. Percent amounts are written using this symbol. Look at the model below. 50 out of 100 parts are shaded. You know when you look at this that you have 50 out of 100, you have a half, and you know that in a letter grade, you only got half of them right, and it's not a very good grade. You already know how to show this amount as a fraction and as a decimal. So here they show that there are 50 out of 100 shaded. That makes 50 hundredths, 0.50, or 50 hundredths. And you can also show this as a percent. If you get 50 out of 100, that means you have a 50%. Okay? So, you can compare percents just as you compare decimals and fractions. In the model below, 5 out of 100 parts are shaded. Okay, so we're going to compare it to the number shaded in this model up above. So here you have 5 shaded out of 100. As a fraction, that's 5 over 100. Our previous, we can tell just by looking at the shaded, was 50 out of 100, which we know is much more. So 5 out of 100 is less than 50 out of 100. You can write that same thing as a decimal and also as a percent. 5 out of 100 equals 5%. And 5% is less than 50%. Let's hope you don't get a 5% on a math test. Let's hope you don't get a 50% on a math test. Let's hope you get a 100% on a math test. You get them all correct. Okay? So, moving on. Oh, and by the way, these pages are available to you on iReady. A percent compares a part to the whole. So just like a graded assignment, the percent is comparing how much maybe you got correct compared to the whole amount. So a percent compares a part to the whole just as a fraction can. Percent means parts per 100. So for every 100. So 25% means you got 25 parts per 100, or 25 out of 100. You can always write a percent as a fraction using 100 as the denominator. So here they show you 100 out of 100, which is 100%. Can be written like this. Interestingly enough, we know that the same numerator and the same denominator is also the same thing as a whole. Well, that's because the whole thing is correct or shaded. Here we have 65%, or 65 out of 100, or 65 hundredths. Here we have 4 parts out of 100, so 4 over 100, or 0.04, 4 hundredths. This one would be 21 out of 100, or 21 hundredths as a decimal. And also, here are the ways to write them as fractions. Percent is a way to describe a part of the whole when the whole is 100. For example, suppose you take a test with 100 questions and you get 90 questions correct. So just like what we talked about with the time test, 90 out of 100 correct is written as a fraction. That's why oftentimes you see your teachers might give you a paperback that looks like this. Okay, that's just a fraction. It means you got 14 out of 15 correct. The difference is the denominator is not 100. We will get to that, just not today. So 90 out of 100 means you got 90% correct. In every percent situation, 100% always describes the whole. 100% is always the whole thing. So if 90% of the questions are correct, then that means 10% of the questions are incorrect, because 90 plus 10 is 100. Okay? Over here, she's talking about how she can see that 50% is the same as a half. We talked about that up above. If you have 25% shaded, it's the same as 1/4, just like a quarter. 25 cents is 25 cents out of 100 that it takes to make $1, okay? So if you think about that like quarters, it takes 4 quarters to make $1. If you have 1, you have 1 out of the 4 quarters that it takes to make a whole dollar, okay? So you can write 1/4 as 25%, because just think of it like money, like quarters. Percent is also a way to describe groups or parts even when the whole may not be equal to 100. Suppose you know that 45% of the students in your town ride a bus to school. You do not know the number of students who ride a bus to school, but you know that a little less than half of the students do ride the bus, because 45% is just 5% less than 50. So, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to read this reflect question to you. I want you to pause the video. I want you to do this problem on your own. Then I want you to play the video again and see how you've done on your answer. So go ahead and we're going to read this. A student rides a bicycle 20% of the total distance from home to school. I better make that make sense. So you've got a kiddo. He's riding his bike from home to school, and it says he rides his bike 20% of the total distance. Well, the total distance would have to be 100%. That would be the whole way, right? From home to school is the whole way, and a whole is all of it, 100% of the way. So a student rides a bicycle 20% of the distance from home to school. Is that less than 1/4? Exactly 1/4 or more than 1/4 of the distance, and explain how you know. Go ahead and pause, solve that problem, and then come back and hit play, and you can check how you've done. Okay, if you are back, hopefully you've done this without me. If not, maybe you're just a little confused and you're going to copy. But anyway, the best thing to do is to challenge yourself and to try this all by yourself. But where I left off was thinking that if he gets from his house to school, that gets him 100% of the way. If he's only gone 20%, I know that 20% is less than half. I know that halfway to school would be about here, and that would be 1/2, which is 50%. Now, if I think of 1/2 as quarters, because we're dealing with fourths, that's quarters, just like 4 quarters make $1, right? If you have 1/4 out of 4, you have 25%, or 25 cents, right? 1/4 is 25 cents out of 100 cents. Something to think about. So halfway, 50%, is 1/2. So if I think of that like quarters, that's like 2 quarters, right? So 1/4, 1 out of 4, 1/4, would be 25 cents, or 25%. Then we have 2 quarters, 50 cents, and then we have 3 quarters, which would be the same as 75 cents, or 75%. So if he's only gone 20% of the way, he's only gone about this far. So I see that he hasn't even gone quite 1/4 of the way to school. So he's got quite a bit to go. Matter of fact, I know he would have exactly 80% of the way to go, because 80 plus 20 is 100. So my answer is going to be that the student has ridden his bike. Ridden, is that correct? Has ridden his bike less than 1/4 of the way to school. Now I'm going to think about this as fractions. 1/4 is equal to 25 out of 100. Like, think of this, quarters. 1/4, if you're buying cookies and you have 1/4, you have 25 cents. You would need 4 quarters to have $1. Okay? So 1/4 equals 25%. The student has gone 20%, which is equal to 20 out of 100, and 20 out of 100 is less than 25 out of 100. Do you see how you can use numbers and symbols and not just words to help you show your answers? So hopefully you're making that connection between quarters and the amount of cents that are in a quarter, because that's going to help you. 1/4 out of 4, remember 4 is always the 100%. That's the same as 25 cents out of $1. Okay? 2 quarters out of 4 is the same as 50 cents out of 100, or we know also 1/2 of $1. Excuse me. And then 3/4 would be like having 3 quarters, or 75 cents out of $1. And remember, we can turn all of these into percents. 75%, 50%, 25%. All right, so your job now is to go over to your practice book, and you should have completed page 89 and 90 in class yesterday, Monday. If you didn't, you might want to finish those up. Your job now is to do just page 91 all by yourself. Now, if you need a little bit more guidance, if you go to your math page, there are some videos. There's one video linked on the e-learning page for percent help, but if you go over to the math help page, there's more work on percents that you may use. So to come to school tomorrow, please complete page 91.